Wow. Beautiful. Oh, it's from the ending. Whoa. Is that right? Okay, that is significant for sure. Wow. Right, she was telling, oh, this guy again. That voice acting though. Sahara. Wow. Great.
10野郎を殺そうとしてる人がまともなわけないじゃないですか。
その頭のネジはぶっ飛んでいるか。
ぶっ飛んでません。
I mean, she has a lot of trauma though.
素直でまっすぐ単純。だから悪魔の奴らもどうすりゃ怖がるか分かっちまう。だがネジがぶっ飛んでる奴は何を考えてるか分からない。悪魔も理解できんもんは怖がるもんだ。
Framing there.
師匠、酒飲み好きですよ。
はい、それまとも。日々の積み重ねがネジを緩めんだ。秋の野郎、本気で肉片集めてるだろう。あいつはそのうち10野郎にたどり着くぞ。
Interesting. Oh. Wow.
アキくん、一緒にさ、民間に転職しない？かなりいい
Oh,
誘い来てるんだ。
yes.
10野郎なんて追わなくてもさ、お昼はここかどっかで食べて、帰りはたまに映画行って。
Trying to get him off that path of hunting down the gun devil.
民間には絶対行きませんよ。杏仁豆腐もらいます。
じゃあ、タバコ一本くれ。
Yeah, how about that?
10の悪魔と戦ったら、絶対アキくんは殺され
He
る。
might actually find it at this
私
rate.
たちがまだ実力不足だからでも、相手が一瞬で何百人も殺せる悪魔だからでもない。だってアキくんはかっこよくて、真面目で、優しくて、みんなみたいに普通の人だから。でも
But
この男なら
right.
ひらめいたぜ。
この最高にネジがぶっ飛んでる男なら
So she needs him on
殺
his
せるか
side.
もしれない。
On Aki's side. By his side. Whoa. How long has it been? I mean, again, the concept of time is an interesting one in here.
どのくらい
Yeah,
どのくらい経ちました？
tough to say, right?
あれから3日くらいかな。
Whoa.
もう終わるのか。
There it is.
10の悪魔の肉片も取れたし、晴れてるし、クソした後みてえな気分だぜ。浮いてるみてえだ。
Yeah. Wow.
あんた飲みたいだけでしょ。小さいけど肉片ありました。どうせ飲むならマキマさんと飲みたい。
And how does Himeno feel
来
about
週
that?
からマキマさん京都出張。
Uh-huh.
デンジが悪魔に狙われた件で応援求めに行くらしいです。
Oh, yes.
だから飲むなら今週がいい。
Oh god, I love this look so much.
相手の悪魔がデンジ君のこと知ってたみたいだし。
Knew about the
この世界
chainsaw.
も初めて見たよ。一番謎なのが、あのマキマさんがデンジ君を気にかけてること。
Yes, asking the right question.
マキマさん、あちこちに行くのに最近は東京にいるのって、デンジ君がいるからでしょ。
Yeah.
マキマさん呼ばせて聞いてみようか。
Ah. Oh.
うまい。飲むの半年ぶりです。
Kind of looks like Jean, doesn't he?
家で少し飲むくらいですね。
道に迷っちゃって
Oh.
コベちゃん、コベちゃん、こっちおいで。
こんな美味しいご飯初めて食べました
コベちゃん、お金ほと
she's
んど
so
家に入れ
cute.
てるもんね。たくさん食べな。
フィッシュさんとこの魔人は連れてこなかったんですか？
Whoa.
ここには怖くて連れてこられないですね。
Oh.
早川さんところの魔人ちゃんは理性が高くていいですね。
濃いやつかましてやるからさデン
Okay.
ジ君をみんなで殺そうとしたこと許してね
ああもう超許すよ超。
新人歓迎会なんだから新人は立って自己紹介
Yes. Good
名
idea.
前と年齢と契約してる悪魔言え
公共の場で契約している悪魔を言うな。
Uh,
手の内は信用した人間にしか見せちゃいけないぞ。
私は趣味聞きたいな。趣味で人間わかるでしょ。
俺デンジ年は確か16。趣味は食うのと
that reaction though.
寝るの。
やば、バカ。
あんた酒飲んでないよね。
Uh,
お茶。
私は荒井宏和です22歳契約している悪魔はキツネ趣味は俳句です
oh.
お前と契約してる悪魔も同じじゃん。狐の悪魔は人間に友好的だからたくさんのデビルハンターと契約している。
She's got
狐の頭はイケメンしか使えないんだよ。
東山小紅です
go in it. Look at her.
契約してる悪魔は秘密で趣味
Oh.
は美味しいものを食べることです
服かわいいよね。
It is.
服はお姉ちゃんのお下がりです
おりょうフシさんとこの新人は
残念ですが昨日亡くなりました。
Oh.
確定キスじゃん。
She certainly likes to drink, doesn't she?
俺今日ファーストキスしちゃうんだ。
キス
マキマさ
マキマさん、ここにどうぞ。
本物のマキマさん初めて見た。
デンジ君
Yeah, about that.
しません。
ん。あデンジ君キスしないの？
しまーす。
前までこんな速いペースで肉片を持つ悪魔は現れませんでした。こ
Oh.
の間のデンジを狙った悪魔といい、最近少し悪魔の動き
Something
が
must
怪
be
しいで
going
す。
on indeed.
マキマさんはデンジのこと何か知ってるんじゃないですか？
私より飲んだら教えてあげる
すいません、生2つ。
Jeez. Oh, she's gone.
すいません生もう一つ
She can put him down. Oh, oh.
おや
Well. Mmm.
見られちゃった。
That
マ
look.
キマさんに見られた。
Oh, wow.
でもなんだこの感触が舌気持ちいい柔らかい柔らかい口の中でとろけてるぞ舌じゃないゲロだ
トラウマだなこりゃ
Oh my god.
これはまずいぞ
Oh.
デンジは口に入れた栄養になればもう飲み込む癖があるんじゃ
Oh, bro.
ポチだ。
Hey.
これ食えそうだぜ。
The fuck?
見ろ、ポチだ。ネズミが酔っ払いのゲロに集まってら。 ゲロ食うなんて信じられねえ
Oh
よな。
no.
同じ哺乳類として情けねえぜ。
Now you know, my dude.
姫の先輩には自制心が足りないんだ。博士やるの前だろ。仕事帰りの酔った母さんをよく介護してたんだ。
There you go. Bit of
みたい
backstory.
にデビルハンターの才能はなかったがな。
羨ましいだとこっちやよファーストキスはゲロの味だぜ
I just feel really bad for him right now.
デンジ君は
デンジ君なら姫の先輩が背負って連れて行きましたよ。
Interesting.
水
Oh, he's kind of. Oh. Whoa. That is beautiful. Wow. Ah. Wow. But I don't know, man. This is getting dicey.
なんで私んちに
Yeah. I mean, she's really quite drunk, but.
あ 私が連れてきたんだっけ
Yeah, you did. You did.
ね
Wow, it's beautifully animated
ク
though.
ラクラする
Yeah,
な
yeah.
んじゃこりゃ
Oh, this is
そう
getting
い
dicey,
や
man.
君マキマさんのことラブでしょあんなクソ女やめときゃいいのにもう
Okay, yeah, there's a bit of.
マキ君もあんな照れちゃってさ
Wow.
しちゃう
Oh, okay. Okay, Chainsaw Man episode 7. Great episode. Really, yet another great episode. And I love how it took a bit of a different approach in the second half. Really slowed it down, right? I mean, I thought it was actually much needed. I think it's timed perfectly, actually. After, the bombastic Eternity Devil arc, mini arc, I suppose. I get one full episode of that storyline in the last episode. The conclusion portion a few episodes ago, and then the beginning portions of this episode, the first half of this episode. So it was a great little mini arc inside that hotel on floor number 8. I mean, that really was a lot of fun. That really was quite exciting, intriguing, all of those things. But yeah, I think the second half of this episode really allowed some great character moments, really kind of painted a lot of these characters in a different light. Anytime a bunch of characters get together, and it really is quite realistic as well, of course. It's not something fantasy or, fictional. It's a real thing. People get together, people have fun, they kind of loosen up, perhaps loosen up a bit too much, perhaps loosen up by design. And through those different conversations that are going on, there's a lot of fantastic insight. Small bits of exposition through conversation, just organically. So I love that scene. I've got to say it's one of my favorites of the anime so far as well. It's simple. It really is quite simple, but it's so effective and so engaging. There's also an introduction to a few new characters. All of them really quite likable, right? I'm not sure how big of a role they'll end up playing in the grand scheme of things, because as one of them mentioned, they're really dying all the time, right? And you see that element really kind of spooks Arai and Kobane even further. Himeno already established that they're essentially on the brink of quitting, and perhaps that conversation didn't really do much in terms of kind of reassuring them about their chances out here in this field. But, a lot of really cool moments, such as that one guy who kind of resembles Jean. Same hair, same type of haircut, same type of hair color. And Aki asked about that guy's fiend, right? How come you didn't bring him? And, he said something like, oh, they're a bit too scary. Though he did say they're a bit too scary. So is there more than one? I mean, I've seen a bunch of unique looking characters in that opening, right? So I'm thinking he's speaking of the one that seems to have a shark head, right? So you've got a bit of a shark devil fiend going on here, perhaps. There's also the angel. There's the one that kind of looks like a doll, right? All of them are present in that opening in the theater, right? So yeah, maybe he has two of them. Of course, last episode, they gave us Kobane's backstory and how she ended up here as one of the most unlikeliest devil hunters, though she also has a contract. Apparently it's a common thing, right? Because that one guy, the big dude, he's like, all right, this is a gathering for the rookies, so get up, give us your name, tell us about your contract. And the other girl mentioned hobbies, and she's spot on. Hobbies really do tell you about who a person really is, or the type of person they really are. So these supporting cast characters that are introduced in this episode, they certainly play their part in this. But yeah, Kobane has a contract, but it's a big secret, right? Though of course, Aki did say, don't just say it out loud. Only tell people you really trust. But perhaps there's more to it. Perhaps there's something really quite exciting or intriguing about Kobane's contract, who has 8 sisters, and that's really quite odd, isn't it, for Japan? You don't hear about people having that many children, right? Though of course, I cannot forget, like I mentioned earlier, It is based in the 90s. So, maybe I shouldn't be applying the current state of affairs, but that's still kind of staggering, isn't it? 8 sisters, and of course the brother, right? The one that gets to go to college because he's the genius, right? And you have Kobane here having to be a devil hunter. It's that or the other profession. I mean, how cute is Kobane in this episode, right? In that restaurant scene. And it's really great to see her quite relaxed after that high pressure, high tension, high stakes situation that almost drives her mad, right? Again, I think it was really quite realistic, given that they are rookies, that she's not cut out for this line of work. So Kobane is all chill. She's having a fun time. She's having a good time, right? And I love that for her. There's a sweet moment as the other lady, or the other girl, again, I'm not sure how old she is, tells her to, eat her fill, eat her share, because she knows all about her situation. She was really quite kind to Kobane. It felt so authentic, right? Didn't feel like there's any ulterior motives. She just simply seems to care about Kobane, right? That she is looking out for her. So, I thought that was great to see. Maybe I'm focusing on some of the mundane aspects of this, but that element is really quite charming as well. But then on the opposite end, you have Arai, who's really quite on edge, right? Perhaps it's a bit of, the fear of public speaking kind of creeping in. He is in front of a lot of people and, he kind of has to stand up. And he's really quite stiff. He's really quite, panicked. Starts yelling out his answers like he's in the military. Right. Yes, Kobane is also a little bit shy, but it's not the same Kobane I saw in the last episode, right? She's certainly a bit more relaxed here. But then you see that Arai is able to kind of calm down once it's him and Denji, right? There's a bit of a bonding moment there, right? I think, that guilt is certainly playing a part. Now Arai is certainly making that effort to maybe get to know Denji, maybe, care about him a little bit, maybe kind of, set aside some of those preconceived notions he had about this strange individual. And listen, he's strange. He really is. You see the first reaction of Kobane, of Arai, and Himeno, all three seeing the Chainsaw Man, the devil, Akuma, right? But before I kind of deviate too much from my initial point about Arai, taking it back to the washroom, him really looking after Denji because he has experience, right? Perhaps his mother was a hostess, but it is the 90s. I'm not sure if that profession was a big thing back then, unless, of course, Arai's mother was part of a more unforgiving profession. And perhaps, hitting the drinks or drinking was this outlet, and you see that it's a common theme throughout this episode, being utilized for different reasons. But I thought it was great that Arai felt really quite relaxed around Denji in that moment, right? Really quite the contrast from his earlier experience, kind of standing up and having to tell them about his own, hobbies and his contract with the Fox Devil. So, according to Aki, it really is quite friendly towards humans. So yeah, the Fox Devil is an interesting one. I'm sure there's much more there. And this whole concept of devils kind of knowing about other devils, right? How about the Fox Devil? Does the Fox Devil know about Chainsaw or the Chainsaw, right? I'll get to that aspect of it. As set up and as kind of surmised earlier, in earlier episodes, or in the last episode at least, yeah, there's something going on here. There's a history here, right? The Chainsaw, who seems to have fallen far from grace, right? Look how far you've fallen, as the Eternity Devil taunted the Chainsaw. And speaking of the Fox Devil in Kyoto, Aki mentioned that Makima is about to travel to Kyoto, right? Now, he said it's to get more reinforcements because of the recent attacks and recent targeting of Denji, the Chainsaw Man, right? And Aki, he brought that up. And, Makima, yeah, she kind of shut that down almost immediately. But through this clever, drinking competition, she knew that she can drink all day, all night, right? And Aki, and then of course Himeno also kind of, throws her hat into the ring. Yeah, both of them are gone. And Makima is just sitting there asking for more, of course. Though also, I think it is a calculated move, isn't it? Beyond just Aki, let's kind of look towards Himeno, right? Makima doesn't miss much, right? By this point, she's kind of read the situation. She knows there's some kind of, kissing prize. And she sees this, right? There's a lot of striking shots of Makima kind of looking at Denji and looking at this kiss kind of take place. And, Denji is kind of side-eyeing Makima as well. There's that one shot of her taking a drink, the beer mug. Holy, that looks so beautiful. But then you see Makima's eye firmly fixed on it, on that kiss. So there's a bit of jealousy there. And, I'm not speaking of the romantic kind. No. Not at all. Jealousy in the sense that her tool, her dog that she's claimed for some time now and has a lot of plans for, clearly. And, other characters are noticing this, characters like Himeno, Aki. They're all kind of starting to put it together that, clearly Denji is important to Makima. I think Himeno specifically needs to be quite careful, right? Because she is asking a lot of those questions, a lot of the right questions. She's starting to dig deep. So perhaps she wanted Himeno to become this sloppy mess, right? Drink after drink. I mean, they show you just how much they've had. It's this insane amount. She certainly has a drinking problem, right? Though all of that kind of begins with the master, right? She's taken a lot of it to heart. A lot of these, methods or a lot of these vices, essentially, to loosen up some of those screws, right? That's like the big lesson for her, you just can't be straight edged. You can't be normal. But despite all of these attempts, I just don't think Himeno is able to become this person that has a few screws loose, right? It's just not there. And I've seen the true Himeno, the real Himeno, kind of crack through a few times now once the House of Cards kind of comes crumbling down. As of this point, I have my fingers in so many of the different elements of this episode. I'll try to kind of come back to all of them. But, I need to stick to Himeno. Yeah, listen, 7 episodes in, that final scene, it really should not feel like some sort of score for Denji. It really isn't this awesome moment, is it? The contrast there, if you look at the final scene and the ending, it's not kind of paired up by accident or anything. It's not just randomly paired up, because essentially that ending is certainly unapologetically raunchy, right? It's essentially fan service by design. They essentially show all of our main cast female characters as these pinup models, right? The 90s aesthetic. And I think they pull it off. Certainly they pull it off. But yeah, it's leaning into that. That is fan service. You could call it that. I think, there's no doubts about that. But I think there's an interesting dynamic here, because that final scene, I think it can be misconstrued as fan service. I think so. But it's not. I really don't think so. Listen, it's beautifully animated. It's jaw-dropping. Some of the the art style. Himeno, she looks stunning, right? It really is. It's beautiful stuff. But, there's this, there's a beauty of it and there's the darkness as well, because it's problematic. It's really quite problematic. As I mentioned a few times, it's getting dicey. In the beginning stages of this series, in the first few episodes, I remember mentioning the prospect of him essentially being manipulated by a different set of people, right? Yes, he was liberated from that hellish lifestyle, those hellish living conditions, and, being manipulated all of his life, being used all of his life, to then kind of being used by a different set of people. And that's exactly how things have played out. Right? He's being manipulated, he's being used, he's being claimed from different parties now, because now Himeno is also seeing the opening, or she's seeing the opening, right? There's that shift in expression as she realizes, this is it, right? This is it. And I thought, the inclusion of that flashback was perfectly timed. She realizes Aki is normal. Aki's a cool dude, right? He's kind. Essentially, relatively speaking, he's quite normal. He's just as normal as anyone else. And he's going to get killed by the gun devil, essentially. So, there's that moment of panic. No. And, the cut to the next scene, she tries. She gave it a shot, but, she hits a brick wall because he is dead set. And he has no plans of leaving public safety because, of course, that's how he gets access to the gun flesh. Right? I believe they mentioned that a few episodes ago. Only people in public safety can get access or gain access to the gun devil flesh. So yeah, no chance at all that he's stepping out. So yeah, this opening, There's this new opening for Aki, and you see, sorry, not Aki, for Himeno. So the moment she sees Denji in action as the Chainsaw Man and realizes, okay, this is the craziest, most unhinged, screws loose person I've ever come across or ever seen, and it happens to be on our side, or he happens to be on our side, she sees the light at the end of the tunnel, right? She's like, this is how I protect Aki. This is how Aki lives. And at that moment, she is also looking at Denji as a tool. And I thought that moment of the ghost hand pulling at the ripcord, essentially pulling at Denji's heartstrings, right? For selfish reasons. I thought that was quite a poignant moment, quite a poignant frame. And listen, Himeno is not some squeaky clean character, right? She's a great character, for sure. She's doing things here that are really quite problematic. Listen, yeah, she's drunk, but is that an excuse, right? Because there's a few elements of kind of, doing things deliberately or putting things into motion deliberately. Yes, maybe that first kiss is just her being flat out gone, intoxicated, drunk. And she does start kissing Denji, and of course, that puke moment happened. I mean, that really caught me off guard. That's insane, and that's traumatizing, as the other guy mentioned, right? Yeah, maybe there's a tad bit of humor there, but no, man. That moment inside the washroom or the bathroom, as he's throwing up and he looks up and he's got snot and he's got tears running down his face and his face is just a mess. That's not fun. That's not a funny moment. You feel for Denji. I certainly felt for Denji in that moment. He doesn't deserve to be going through that. And they do make it a point of showing us Himeno's reaction to his age, right? Again, he's not 100% sure, but he's around that range, essentially, right? A minor. But even if he's not a minor, he's so inexperienced. And he is still much younger than a lot of them, right? Even if he is legally of age, it's just this power dynamic that's quite problematic there. So there's a good chance, some of the bodily fluids that are exchanged through that kiss, they do end up having a bit of an effect on him. Perhaps it does get him a bit drunk, a bit intoxicated, because, by the time he's in Himeno's bed back in her home or her apartment, I mean, he's certainly quite dehydrated. He's not all there. He said his head's spinning. He's asking for water. He might be drunk from that contact, from the bodily fluids that are exchanged. But, her taking Denji to her home, her apartment, I think there is a bit of this selfish notion of trying to assert dominance over someone that means something to Makima. Perhaps in retaliation because, Makima seems to have this hold over Aki. And, Himeno knows all about this. She sees this. She's been seeing it for some time now. So, none of that is for Denji at all, right? He's being used here by Himeno, essentially, because of her own selfish reasons. And yeah, I don't know, man. I like Himeno, but yeah, that's not it. It's really not. Now, it remains to be seen if it's actually going to go down. There's the potential here, the prospect here of a big moment, a big character moment for someone like Denji. He doesn't look like he wants this. So let's see how Denji kind of handles this. Though he's not really all there, is he, to be able to handle much of this. But, let's see if he actually declines this approach. Maybe he'll remember Makima's teachings, right? That it feels better. It's much more meaningful if it's with someone you care for or someone you understand and know. I mean, it's not as if I'm giving Makima a pass. She's doing the same damn thing. She's also manipulating him. But I'm just saying, maybe Denji is going to realize, no, this isn't it. This is not how I really thought it's going to go down. I mean, for Himeno's sake, I certainly hope this doesn't go down, right? I mean, of course, it's a legal matter, but also, earlier, as she is a bit sober, right? There's a reaction to Denji revealing his age, his potential age, 16, 17, 15, around that, right? And you see that she has quite a reaction to that. And you see Kobane has yet another reaction to that, right? That guilt is kind of compiling, isn't it? That, on top of them trying to have him killed, they find out that he's really this young adult. He's really this young teenager. So you see that Himeno did have concern, right? She immediately asked him, oh, did you drink? He's like, no, I've got tea. So, there's that. So yeah, I think sober Himeno and intoxicated Himeno, much like a lot of people, it's a different thing. A lot of these things are coming out of her. A lot of these thoughts And a lot of these selfish thoughts essentially are coming out of her. And honestly, I don't think you can really excuse any of this behavior because she's drunk herself, because there is an element of control here. She's in control, right? She made a few deliberate choices that kind of have them in this situation now. But that being said, I do believe that I've seen enough of Himeno and, her reaction to certain things as she is sober to kind of say that I think this is the type of thing that might upset her later, once she is sober. Again, it remains to be seen if it is going to go down, but I don't think she'll be proud of this. Through these disappointing and frustrating experiences, I think, slowly, step by step, Denji is learning about relationships and the nature of relationships, that, there's more to it than just, sex and the sexual side of things. And the bonds and the human connections have so much more to them. Relationships have so much more to them. And, you can already see a lot of growth. There's been a lot of change over the span of these 7 episodes for Denji, right? But that's still early days. There's still a lot that he has to learn and experience. A lot of it is going to be disappointing. A lot of it is going to essentially set him back. In that sense, it's even starting to feel like he's feeling disappointed in himself for disappointing Pochita. And I think a big component of that is also Denji learning to value himself, right? As of this point, that comparison to a dog is just perfect, isn't it? He's really quick to trust. He'll give you his trust almost immediately. That got him stabbed and killed initially in episode 1. But you see that because of his inexperience, he forgives and forgets so easily and puts himself in these situations, right? And then Himeno, she promised a juicy one and he's completely forgotten all about it, right? All the things that happened inside the hotel, inside floor number 8. As long as he gets the things he wants, he just forgives and forgets. Essentially, it's starting to feel like the deconstruction phase of Denji's character arc. At this point, through these experiences, again, even if they are frustrating and disappointing, bit by bit, he's perhaps going to learn that, his line of thinking has to change, that he has to grow. And ultimately, I think it is going to yield a net positive in the long run. Now, let's shift the focus to something that has become really quite intriguing over the span of the last few episodes, right? The chainsaw and the history of the chainsaw. That appears to be really quite juicy, to say the least. I mean, the Eternity Devil made it quite clear that, okay, chainsaw used to be a big deal. And of course, the Eternity Devil is taunting chainsaw quite a bit, right? Though ultimately, much like some of the other devils, it's kind of disgusted or fearful of the chainsaw doing the things that they usually do. Here, it's essentially that loop, never-ending loop of pain that the chainsaw is inflicting on the Eternity Devil, right? Ultimately, that batshit crazy plan, it played out, didn't it? It presents its own heart. It apologizes. I'm sorry. Right, here's my heart. It's crazy, isn't it? It really is. I mean, it's starting to sound like that perhaps the chainsaw, before its fall from grace, might have been this dominant figure in the devil hierarchy, right? Now it appears to be the gun devil. But clearly, the chainsaw and the gun devil, there's history there. And as Aki noted and brought up in that conversation with Makima, this is something new, right? Since the arrival of Denji, the appearance of these devils that seem to have the gun flesh, it's become really quite likely. I mean, the frequency of it has escalated quite a bit, right? So he knows enough now that there is a connection there as well, right? Himeno has also made that connection. So they have to be careful. They have to be careful, I think. But lastly, kind of going back to Denji, right? And that moment in the washroom. And again, the insertion of that flashback is so poignant because it showed us that even if he is kind of living through this hellish life of his, these hellish living conditions, he is able to maintain a semblance of pride and dignity, right? He could never lower himself to the rats. He could never picture himself doing that. Yet you see now that he was robbed of that dignity and pride that he maintained, right? Even that was taken. But lastly, I've got to mention Power and her reactions in the restaurant, right? To the kiss, to certain questions. You know, she was really starting to remind me of Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy. And the voice acting is just so engaging. I love the voice acting for Power. I mean, she's such a fun character to have in this ensemble cast. But yeah, I think that's about it for this one, folks. I mean, it continues to explore, you know, themes such as, you know, power dynamics, you know, gaslighting, manipulative behavior, right? Human connection, bonds, and selfish desires, right? And, you know, the thing is, you know, Denji is around broken people. He's around broken people. And, you know, a lot of them, or all of them, are essentially flawed in some sense. And that's realistic. It really is. So it's really quite a unique, a strange coming of age story, right? Denji being at the middle of it. And surrounded by a lot of unique and interesting people. But yeah, that final moment, that final scene, when I do it, let's hope it doesn't happen. Let's hope it doesn't happen because, yeah, the connotations of that are really quite a slippery slope. I mean, it's beyond a slippery slope. But let's see. All right, so if you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like. And the likes really do help. So if you really enjoyed it, please do consider dropping a like. You know, consider dropping some comments. Give me your thoughts. If you're interested in full length, or perhaps full opacity, and that includes the endings, consider checking out the Patreon page, and the links for that are in the description and the pinned comment. Also, there's links to social media, if that's your thing. Right then, that's about it for this one, folks. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for your time, as time is precious. It is. And I do hope to see you again soon for the next one. Until then, take it easy.